Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. Today we're going to be doing my mid-monthly wrap-up for March, and I'm going to jump right in because I apparently... So what happened was, after the readathon, the underhyped readathon, I finished quite a few books in that first, and then second, I kept just wanting to read more. And now I'm in a minor book slump. I can't say I'm like in a book slump because I am reading. I'm having serious ADD. I have a book in my brain that I want to be reading, and Amanda's like my soulmate, and she's literally sent it to me, so it'll be here soon, and I'm like so touched. I've actually been like crying on and off all day because I'm a mess. And that just made me cry happy tears, so I'm super stoked. And I actually have one book that I will be sending her as well. I received an extra copy of it by mistake, and they told me to keep it, and so I will tell you which one that will be, and that's coming to Amanda soon. So let's just dive right in. So this one will be getting its own separate review. This is one of my Europa publishing books. This is Deep in the Brain, Living with Parkinson's Disease. This is a memoir of a gentleman with Parkinson's disease. I will definitely be doing more of a in-depth review on this when I do my Europa review, but I definitely gave this I think I gave it a 4-star rating, maybe 5. It was really beautiful, really wonderfully written, and it really was eye-opening into a disease that I don't usually see discussed, especially in the neurological sense. I usually just see Parkinson's as, muscles and things like that having trouble, but this really talked about what it can do to the brain and how it can affect your daily life. And that was really moving and sweet and wonderful and scary at the same time. So I'm very happy that I got to read this, and I thank Europa so much for that. Next, I have a book from Punk Planet Books, which is, I want to say, Arkansas? I really struggle with the name of this publisher. Akashic Books. It's kind of like my name. I should be able to do this. This is The Boy Detective by Joe Mino. I gave this 5 stars. Oh my gosh, I will be doing a full in-depth review on this. Joe is now an author I plan to reach out and find more of. The publisher was so sweet, and I was like, well, I think this might do it, and they're like, yeah, let's try it. So they sent this along to me, and I was dead on which was the right one to start with, and I will be absolutely picking up more with Joe's work. Joe Mino has a very distinct writing style. It's not like anything else I've ever read. It's got a lot of mixed kind of ways of writing. There's a boy detective, and the boy detective is very good at his job, and he's very young, and he and his sister and his best friend solve cases that the police cannot solve. And things are going very well for them as a group, and then the sister decides she doesn't want to be the sidekick anymore. She wants to be the main event, so she tries to do magic, and he kind of goes off and does the boy detective thing in school for a little while, and then they come back and become good again, and they get really close again, and then there's a tragedy that strikes, and he spends the rest of his adult remaining years until he's 30 in a mental health ward, trying to come to grips with the one case he cannot solve. And he finally gets into a halfway house where it's a mental health facility, but people are kind of like able to come and go as they see fit. And that's where this book really kind of starts to take off, as he starts to just dive back into the real world in the Midway house, and it's beautifully written, and the characters are intriguing. Everything seemed very real and honest to me, and I really felt what the characters felt, which was very intense. I read this in one sitting. This is Push, and it is by Sapphire. Now, I gave this 3 stars, and I'm struggling here. I understand why this is important. This is a book about a young girl who suffers sexual assault at the hand of a family member, gets pregnant, things just keep going downhill. She's struggling to learn. She learns how to write and kind of bring herself out into the world again with literature, and it's meant to be a hopeful recovery story from trauma, I think. But I felt a little manipulated in the same way I felt manipulated by A Little Life. If you really want me to go into what I think of A Little Life, I will. I don't want to cross that line unless it's requested. That's all I'm going to say. This, though, is an important book. I think it's a really interesting book. I think it has a purpose. Sarah Moss, Signs for Lost Children. I am devastated. This is a sequel. I didn't know this was a sequel. It works as a standalone. It does. It totally works as a standalone. But I want to know what happened in the first book. A story about a couple, Allie and Tom. Allie is a doctor, which is very rare. I believe this takes place in the 1800s, the late 1800s. So Allie is a doctor, which is very rare for a female doctor, and she and her husband Tom are recently married, and they decide to do a sabbatical separated, not for their own sake, but because their jobs are taking them in different directions. Tom works with lighthouses, and he is going to Japan, and Allie is staying where she is and in an asylum as a doctor with women who are kind of left aside. Now, this is a really honest depiction of what it might have been like in a mental asylum when the mental illness was considered a weakness. So Allie is going into a world where the patients who suffer from mental illness are very clearly treated as if they are lazy, stupid, manipulative, and completely in the wrong, and that is not okay, but it is how they are treated. Allie is suffering quite a bit on her own from being alone and being in her own head. She has suffered a loss in her life. She had a very controlling mother. I don't want to give away too much, but I need to pick up the first one. This was a 5-star read without the first one. Now I need the first one because I need to know what happened with the loss and Allie before this, because we'll do a separate review of that alone, but I want to track down the first book. Before I do that review, I wrote Feminist Press, and they're out of Burlington, Vermont. I was on Goodreads, and I was looking through giveaways, and I saw this book, and I was like, ooh, I can't leave this one up to chance. And so I wrote the publisher, and they were kind enough to send me a hard copy of Feminist on Fire by Colleen Kieran. This book is about Pam Kieran, who is a founding member of a feminist radical group in the 1960s and 70s, who suffered from schizophrenia. And oh my god, it was so worth it. So I will be doing a full in-depth review on this, more so on the history of Pam and her life and diagnosis, because that's what this is. But I will be discussing the writing as well, and I got this, and the day I got it, I sat down and read it in one sitting. It was amazing. Moraga's Curiosity Cabinet by H.P. Wood. I read this near the end of the Underhyped Readathon. I received this as an ARC copy. It's due to be out in June 2016. It's from Source Landmarks Books. I've done a review of this already. The best way I can explain it is Geek Love meets Grace Keepers meets Night Circus with a sprinkling of Coney Island and Plague. There you have it. So the next one is these three. These came together. I requested these all from Singing Dragon Press, and this is Trauma is Really Strange, 5 stars. When Anxiety Attacks, 5 stars. Take it as a compliment, 5 stars. I have done a full review in depth, and I will post that very shortly, but that was amazing. All of them are 5 stars. Trigger warnings for all of them, though. Be aware, they do not shy away from the more complicated conversations. This is from Iowa University Press. I wrote them and I requested Lungs Full of Noise. They did oblige and sent that as well, but they said this one may be more up my alley, as well as they sent a memoir, which I am in the midst of. This is When Mystical Creatures Attack by Kathleen Fawns. And this is a short story collection that is written extremely interestingly. So it's written from the perspective of, there's some in a mental health facility, there's some that are students, there's some that, and they're all like written as prompts to be written about. There's characters that go throughout the entire book and write as well. It's really hard to explain. I will do an in-depth review of all 3 Iowa University Press books. This one, though, I gave 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was very different than anything else I've ever read. And I will actually want to find more by Kathleen Fawns because I loved her writing style. This is from Steel Press. This was sent to me for review. This is Things No One Will Tell Fat Girls. This is a handbook of the unapologetic living by Jess Baker. Oh my, so good. All right, I'm going to be doing a full in-depth review on this, talking about living as a plus-size girl and what this book did to me. This is like the pep talk that every plus-size girl needs, where they are feeling as if their body is crap. This is the book that tells you, stop it. Your body is not crap. Your body is a temple. You have an amazing body. Stop pretending you have a bad body, because you know what? It's a beautiful body. It's a human body. It's your body, and you should love your body. This really was amazing, and I was so blessed to get this in my post. And this was sent to me by Two Lines Press. This little tiny book is called Quiet Creatures on a Corner, and this was by Joa Gilberto Noel, and it's translated by Adam Morris. This was a heck of a book. This was about madness and intensity of the mind after being imprisoned, and what's right, what's wrong. I felt weird after I read this. Not in a bad way. Like, it just left me drained and tired and happy I'd read it and weirded out. Don't read it at night. Don't do it. I made that mistake. Don't do it. Very enjoyable. And I feel like if I tell you any more, it's going to destroy it for you. So you need to go into this without knowing much, because that's the best way to do it. And that's how I did it. And on point. Anyway, this is Hawan Sokyan, Princess Bari. So, haha. I saw this on Goodreads, and a lot of people had said they wanted to read it, but nobody was reading it. Weird. And it was compared to A Tale for the Time Being. And it is like A Tale for the Time Being, but very different from A Tale for the Time Being. So it's A Tale for the Time Being plus fishnets. Bear with me. So Fishnets is a freight publishing book that I read last year, where a young woman is trying to track down her sister who is in a prostitution group. So there's that. Now, A Tale for the Time Being, if you don't know, is a story about a girl called Now. I've done a whole review on that book, and I will link it down below. Bari is a mythical tale that is told to a young girl when she is born about a princess who is abandoned and then saved. And the name Bari comes from that princess and is given to this young girl after she is abandoned by her mother in the first hours of her birth and then saved by a dog and brought back home. So she comes into her life immediately unwanted. She is girl number 6 in a family of all females, and her father is infuriated, and her grandmother and her become very close because she and her grandmother share a secret gift that the rest of the family does not have. She has a capability of speaking to other worlds and people. Definitely some magical realism, some mystical elements. This was really beautiful. I don't want to tell you too much because it kind of destroys it. I will be doing a full in-depth review of this because it was so amazing and I gave it 5 stars. I was sent this for review by Periscope, and yes, this was my final book. This was a picture book I was sent for review by Groundwood. And this is Morris Micklewhite and the Tangerine Dress. And I gave this 4 stars, and it's wonderful. And it is a beautiful little story about a young boy who wants to wear a dress, but people tell him he cannot because he is a boy, and he does not listen, and it's beautiful. So that is my mid-March monthly wrap-up part 1. Ha! I am very happy with my reading month so far. I thought I was doing a lot poorer than I am. Apparently not. I've read at least a book a day, but not really. A lot of those were involved in the Underhyped Readathon, which I told you I really pushed myself to read immense hours. So that is all that. That is all that, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.